Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Postgame Show. I'm Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Joining me, as always, is Lance Williams right over here. But down here in the Brady Bunch category would be Bryan Anthony Davis, who's joining us. It's first time in a long time for he's on a postgame show. Bryan, what is up?
Wow, I feel like I've been elevated to the big show for 1 week only, and I'm feeling awesome.
Yeah, 1 week. Don't get too comfortable.
Lance, I said 1 week only. I know. I'll be glad just continuing to go ahead and watch every week, which I do now.
There you go. Lance, what's going on with you?
What's happening, gentlemen? I wanted to get you on BAD. Who's bad?
Where is the mask? Where...
I'm a little under the weather. I didn't want to do the mask.
Here we go.
Sniffles. But I'm wearing a green Steeler hat though.
Yeah.
And a green you can't see it, but this is the Franco's Italian Army shirt.
Very nice. Very nice. Awesome. I was superstition. I'm still rocking the Behind the Steel Curtain shirt. They've won 3 in a row now with that on. It looks like you wearing a James Washington jersey there, Bryan?
Yeah, I had to go with the road team.
There you go. Absolutely. And the Pittsburgh Steelers get the win on the road. It's hard to believe, but I saw the statistic on Twitter. In their career starts in Mountain West time or further west, Ben Roethlisberger's career wins 2, Devlin Hodges 2.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. He has won both of his starts. He's 3-0 now as a starter. If you want to say he's 4-0 as coming in relief against the Bengals in Week 12. But here we are. The Steelers win 23-17, which I'm trying to see here, Lance, what your prediction was. You predicted 24-13. That was pretty close. I said 27-13. So we were all around that thing, but no one actually hit it, I don't believe. So
I was 30-20.
30-20. So pretty much we kind of guessed the way that the game was going to go. But here's where we go with this game. And such a strange game, such a strange finish to the game, especially in terms of some monumental decisions, which I think were in the awful part. The defense stands tall, gets takeaways against a team that doesn't give the ball away very often. But I want to start with the fact that Lance and I, the streak continues. That's right, folks. 20 straight games the Pittsburgh Steelers have given the ball away. Benny Snell football meant coughing it up in the first quarter, and there you go.
That's one of the numbers I was going to point out. When we hit our little segment, when we look at the game book, was the number 20. 20 consecutive weeks.
It's almost laughable now. It's the longest active streak in the NFL, so... It's funny.
Yeah, and they keep winning. I guess if you get more than you give up, you win.
Yeah, Bryan, if you were to somehow try to fix this issue, I don't know if there's just one way, but what are you doing?
Well, you know what? I expected it to be a Duck Hodges interception. I expected him to get one again. He protected the ball pretty well. Benny Snell just got hit and didn't hold on to it. And I don't think that you could really count the fake punt fumble because that was a turnover on downs anyway. So that's not going to really count. But they did. That was kind of a turnover, but that still, like I said, doesn't count. But, you have young players that have not learned how to protect the ball yet.
I want to go ahead. Good. I want to get something out of the way here. Heath Henry, who listens to our show a lot, says, "Hey Lance, what was your prediction on our season record back when we were 1-4 again?" I am a huge supporter of Lance bashing because I think that he's so negative all the time that it's funny when people decide to come down on him and make him eat crow. But Lance owned it. If you haven't listened to his podcast on Friday, I said it. He went back and owned every single thing that he said that has not panned out with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2019. So you know what? I give him credit for making bold statements. He doesn't waffle. He normally picks the negative side. Hater and homer, that's who we are. And he owned it. So people want to give him crap. That's fine. I'm always going to be supportive of that. But also give him some respect for the fact that he came out and said on a very public platform, hey, I've made a lot of mistakes this year, but then again, we've all made mistakes, right, Lance?
Yes, we have. I mean, that's one of my criticisms of pundits, particularly national pundits like on ESPN or Fox's. A lot of those times, those guys try to be Nostradamus, and they only point out when they get stuff right. They never point out when they get stuff wrong, and they typically get stuff wrong most of the time. I'm sure when they were 1-4, I probably said 4-12. More than likely. I mean, that sounds like me. I probably was laughing when I was doing it, going through the schedule. L, L, L. That's a L. That's a L. 4-12. Yeah, but I owned it. You got to listen to the show on Friday. I ate a lot of crow this year. I got a couple of things right, but I ate a lot of crow, and crow is good for your diet.
All right, so I just wanted to make sure I got that out there because, Lance, I like the podcast. I thought it was a good show, great show, actually. Let me also say this. We always start the show off with some knee-jerk reactions. Now, Bryan does an entire article dedicated to knee-jerk reactions, which is just published on the website, behindthesteelcurtain.com. Cody Marshall put $2 in the tip jar. I want to bring this up, and I want to get Lance's knee-jerk reaction when we saw Jordan Berry with about 6:44 left in the fourth quarter, gets the snap, tucks it and runs, gets absolutely demolished, and turnover on downs. He fumbles it. I don't know if he was trying to throw it. I don't know what he was doing. But Cody says, glad Berry is with us on Team and Planet. Brutal. Lance, your knee-jerk reaction when the fake punt went down was what?
The hell was that? That was my knee-jerk reaction. What is he doing? I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I shot out some text to you. I shot out text to Dave. I was like, did he really do that? I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I had to rewind because I really thought my TV glitched. I was just thinking about what is that's almost as bad. And Tomlin owned it in his press conference. That call,
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either. I don't buy it either. And that's almost as bad as Tomlin's infamous, horrible fourth down call against Jacksonville in the playoffs. What was it, a 4th and 6? Yeah. It almost trumps that one, but that one is worse because it was the playoffs. But this was a horrible call. If it was Tomlin, I have no idea what your guy Berry was doing, Jeff. And you had gotten to the realm where you were being positive about Berry. I know that switch is off. I know he's back into your doghouse.
Not just his doghouse. He's going to start eating Boo Berry cereal again.
I was always more of a Frankenberry guy. But, Bryan, what was your reaction when Berry tucks it and runs?
Well, you know what? I'm not trying to piggyback off of Lance, but if you go back and look at knee-jerk reactions, my phrase was, I stole this from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in his WWE days. I wrote, "What in the blue hell was that?" Because I was like, I just couldn't believe it. Yeah. That was just absolutely incredible. We went back and watched it over again, thinking that, all right, did he see something and just start running with it? I still don't know, and we're never going to know if that was really a called play or not.
Well, I'll tell you this, and Lance brought up the fact that Tomlin owned it in his press conference. He said, I make the calls. It was on me. Put it on me. And to me, that screamed of a head coach saying, scrutinize me because I can take it. I'm used to it. I'll take it all the time. Watch the film of that. You have 10 players who are running down the field like a punt is on, and then you have Jordan Berry getting absolutely planted behind him. Thank goodness Trey Edmonds turned around, because if he hadn't, that ball was just sitting there. That would have been a scoop and score, easy touchdown for the Cardinals. I think they ended up scoring on that play anyways, on that drive anyways. But on top of that, it came down to killing time. It took time off the clock. It all adds up. I just thought there's no way in God's green earth that a coach with the pedigree of Mike Tomlin, like him or not, would ever sign off on Jordan Berry not throwing it, where if it falls incomplete, it's incomplete pass, but has a designed punter run. No way. I will take that to my grave. I don't care what Mike Tomlin says, and he'll be peppered about it on Tuesday. I'm not buying it. But we have some super chats to get to here, guys. Isaac, who's a big or a big fan, longtime follower of the show. He says, it looked like the Steelers were playing at home with all those Steelers fans there. He puts $5 in the tip jar. Thank you, Isaac. That was a loud crowd. That Deontay Johnson touchdown, it sounded like it was at Heinz Field. Period.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had some guys hit me, I believe, who commented on my Friday show about how I pretty much got it right on about just how incredibly crazy Steeler fans are, away from Pittsburgh.
You got it right about West Virginia fans too.
Yes, I did. Yes. You guys are nuts. So you guys are absolutely nuts. So bring the West Virginia fans when you need it to happen. But yeah, if you get away from Pittsburgh, I mean, it is absolutely insane. I mean, there are Steeler fans everywhere. There's Steeler bars everywhere. Arizona, I mean, you got all these people from Pittsburgh, Western PA, just Steeler fans in general from everywhere that are out there. And I had a feeling that it was going to look just like that. And also, it's winter. That's a trip that people circle, go play golf. It's hot. You get away from the winter. And boy, they turned out. They showed up and turned out.
Absolutely, Brian. Before we get to you, Kyle Smith puts $10 in the tip jar. He was at the game. He told us he was going. He said, first game hype, first win hype. Today was a home for the Steelers in Arizona. Also won. The crowd here would not shut up on offense. 2, they were lucky Murray didn't run that touchdown in when he threw it to Watt, meaning the interception. We'll talk about that in a second. But Brian, your thoughts on the crowd environment in Arizona?
Oh, it was electric. And here's the thing. There's a popular misconception that the Pittsburgh Steelers travel well. And I don't think they travel that well. I think the bottom line is, Jeff, I know you're a big concert fan. You're a big music fan. When you see that Jimmy Buffett is coming to town, coming to the area, you circle it on your calendar and you go there.
Yeah.
Lance, when you see, I don't know who you like, so let's just say Hall & Oates. When you see that Hall & Oates is, well, that's me actually, but when you see that Hall & Oates is coming to town, or the Judds, or whoever you like.
You could have gone so more. You could have gone with so many different better.
I like Hall & Oates though.
Jeff is a Hall & Oates hater, and we're going to work on that. He's the
reason they lost that playoff game against the Jaguars.
John Oates singing the national anthem was never the reason anybody's going to lose. He classed that game up, actually.
He did not.
He's a legend. You never give him credit. But here's the deal. You circled on your calendar, and you go. I was in St. Augustine a couple years ago when Jacksonville came to town. But when the Steelers came to Jacksonville, actually, and everybody I talked to, it was a 75% Steeler fans there, and everybody I talked to, they were Florida residents. They came up from all over Florida because the Steelers were close, and they were glad to see him there. So that's the same thing in Arizona. A lot of people moved to the Valley of the Sun, and their team was coming, and they're going to go see him. So there you go. That's what I would be if I lived anywhere else. And the Steelers were going to be there. I'm going. My buddy lives in Los Angeles. When the Chargers were in town, he was there a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely. Steeler fans are everywhere. So here's Lance's boy, Grayson, who's a hater like he is. He puts $4.99 in the tip jar and says, hater alert. What a stinker on offense. It's so terrible. Can we please talk about the offensive coordinator and its mind-boggling play calls, especially in the 2-minute drill? I honestly was not as down on Randy Fichtner this game, except for throwing a pass inside the 2-minute warning. Why? Kick a field goal, that's fine, but you don't even throw a pass. Leave them with 45 seconds left or something of that nature. Instead, they get 1:45 left because Duck's pass was tipped. Lance, knee-jerk reaction to the play calling in general, or more specifically, that one play call?
The play calling in general is he goes too conservative with Duck. Clearly, when Duck gets into a rhythm, he can make stick throws. He can throw in traffic, and he can make throws. Duck needs to be given a longer leash. It is too tight. They go to run, pass far too often, which is a lot of pressure on a young quarterback to convert third downs consistently. They put him in too many third down situations. The last 2 minutes, absolutely criminal. Now, sometimes it's great when you have a defense like that can bail you out. But when you add that punt, that fake punt, and those play calls, they were trying to lose the game. That was terrible situational coaching. If you just don't want to just run it 3 times. Yep. I mean, you could have kneeled 3 times. That would have been better then that horrible. Can you imagine that scenario where you're facing a Breeze, you're facing a Brady, you're facing a Mahomes, you're facing one of these guys in the playoffs, and you give them a minute 45 because you just don't run it 3 times? That's terrible.
That's crazy.
That was absolutely awful.
Yeah. What about you, Brian? What was your reaction to the play calling in general?
Ben Roethlisberger bails out Randy Fichtner. He's done it. He did it last year. He does it throughout his career. Randy Fichtner is not a good decision maker. Imagine trying to go to dinner with Randy Fichtner. Randy, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Outback? Do you want to go to this nice Italian restaurant? Nah, I'll stick with Arby's because Arby's just has always worked well for me, and I really don't want to risk it on anything else. And that's Randy Fichtner. I mean, he's just not a good decision maker. He's a quarterback's coach. He's Ben's guy. I say it all the time. No soda for you, Randy. You're just not that good.
Guess what, guys? They have matching beards too. They have like matching messy beards too.
Oh, I tell you what, right now, Ben Roethlisberger looks like the guy, your college buddy, that he lost his job. He hangs out on your couch for 2 or 3 weeks, hits on your wife, uses up your Netflix account all day long, and just leaves you. And next thing you know, he's just drained your credit card. That's what he looks like. He looks like Matt Patricia right now. He really looks like he needs a conditioning program in the off season and a makeover, or maybe he looks like he's really going to jump on a passenger train right now and just go from town to town because he looks like a hobo.
Before you go, Jeff, can I give you a fast food trivia or a fast food fact? One, I used to work at Arby's in like 1989. I used to wear tight ass pants and a bad Arby's top. So that's one. Arby's invented curly fries. That's 2. And the beef and cheddar is still outstanding.
It is outstanding. Can I jump in here? There's a popular misconception about the name Arby's being for what? Why is it Arby's?
No, I don't know that.
Everybody thinks it's because of roast beef. But Arby's was invented by the brothers Raffle, the Raffle brothers, and that's why it's Arby's. But I digress. The Steelers won today.
That was your fast food talk there of the game. We appreciate that. Our show is brought to you by Arby's. Make sure you visit your local Arby's at your local truck stop.
Beef and cheddar, baby.
Oh, it's awesome.
All right, let's go to Nicholas Gabriel. I missed a couple live chats. I really apologize if you did that, and I haven't gotten to it because the way that the system's set up, we have over 500 people in this live chat right now, or at least watching live. Please put your question back in there. Put live chat real big. I'll see it. I'll get it up there, I promise. He says, why must they run a screen pass at the end instead of running the ball and the clock? They just giving me heart attacks, and that's the truth. We just talked about that. This game, this team is going to kill me one day. I've always said that. Great win, $5. He says from New York City. Absolutely. There's another fan from Wyoming who says he loves our content. Keep it up. I've got Dave Schofield on it. He says, it was Max Richter. He said, fan of all your shows. Keep up the great content. He's a coal miner from Wyoming. So it's always cool to see where we reached to. Snowman puts $2 in, kind of chimes in on what was just said. He said, can we stop running the stupid bubble screen? I'm just glad they're trying to make those throws. They're trusting him enough to make those throws. So it is what it is. So let's see if we're caught up. I think we are. Here we go. I'm sorry. Adam Jones, he puts $5 in the tip tray. He says 4 out of the 5 of the Steelers' losses are to the best teams in the league. No one's talking about it. Brian, what are your thoughts on that?
Look at it. You lost to San Francisco, Seattle. Those two are battling for the division title. Of course, you've lost to the Ravens as well. I mean, those are the teams that you're losing to. I mean, you did lose, of course, to the Cleveland Browns, and you opened the season losing to the Patriots. So those are all teams that are really vying for a first-round bye. And, yeah, that's we're not talking about that, but you need to keep on winning the way you could win. And of course, it's nothing that you're bragging about, But the bottom line is you don't put style points in the win column. So keep on winning ugly.
Lance, thoughts?
I hear people say that all the time, but I'm going to give you just, my warped analogy. You go out to a nightclub, you see a nice looking woman at the bar, you're like, hey, you want to pursue her, you buy her a drink, you're not getting credit for almost. Hey, you got close. So what? The only way it counts is if you leave with her or you lock her digits in and you convert later. So what? They lost to good teams. So what? So what?
Hashtag just take it.
Yes. Hashtag just take it. Hashtag 2 a.m. baby.
I'm not saying it.
All we're concerned about is finishing. Now, it doesn't matter if they lost to good teams. Those are still losses. How about had they won some of those games? They might be a 5 seed, but they have an opportunity to be a 5 seed next week if they can beat Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
And we will be talking about that a lot, but I want to put Dill Whittett's comment up here. He said, since you're not pointing it out for me other than Dave, he said, guess I'm paying for the recognition. I predicted the 20-13 score against the Browns in this week's 23-17 score. Call me for next week's. I'd like to know how that's going to play out on Sunday Night Football. All right, real quick, guys. Go before we get to the game book. Lance and Bryan, we'll start with Lance. I want a offensive game ball and a defensive game ball from this win over the Arizona Cardinals. Go ahead, Lance.
Well, I think the low-hanging fruit in terms of the offensive game ball is Deontay Johnson, but I'm going to give it to Devlin and Duck Hodges. I think he played a really good controlled game on the road, made some critical throws, particularly on the last drive to extend that drive and get them in the field position. So I'm going to give it to Devlin and Duck Hodges.
And what about on defense?
On defense, I am going to give it obviously to Joe Hayden. I got to mix in my Mike Tomlin, obviously, but I'm going to give it to Joe Hayden for the big interceptions, particularly that interception, his first one where he played through the receiver's shoulder, kind of came over his back and got the interception. That's an outstanding play.
Absolutely. Bryan, what about you?
I absolutely love Duck Hodges in this game. I thought he did everything he could possibly do, especially with the fact that I just don't like the play calling, but this is the game plan he's given. He executed it. But you don't win that game without Deontay Johnson going ahead and I'm not allowed to say going ahead anymore. Everybody on the live chat hates that. So you don't win without Deontay Johnson coming up big with that punt return, the second longest punt return in Pittsburgh Steelers history, 85 yards. The record was in 1964. A man named Brady Keys had a 90-yarder, and he surpassed Antoine Randall L., his 84-yarder from 2003. But that was a big play. But he had some key first downs. He had that the trick play on the reverse. Everything he was doing, he just looked like a world beater today. My game ball goes to DJ18.
And Cody puts $2 in the tip jar, and he says Deontay Johnson had a great game, made huge plays, including that touchdown reception. This was the first time, in my opinion, when he was drafted, a lot of people said he's like Antonio Brown, Mr. Third and Fifth, as we call them on this show. And I think that might have been a little premature, but today was like the first time you got a glimpse of maybe what they were talking about. Not saying he's there, not saying they're equal, just saying this was the first time we all got a taste. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes like he did last week against the Browns, but he can also be really, really good. Did you say your defensive MVP or game ball, Bryan?
Alvin Bud Dupree. He's getting after it. He's doing it. I mean, what was that, 2.5 sacks tonight?
What did Bud end up with?
Let me take a look at the game ball here. Let me look at the game book.
It's really weird when you have a guy like Kyler Murray that scrambles so much and runs around so much. But if it's behind the line of scrimmage and the quarterback still has the ball,
he has 10.5. He has 10.5 now. I think he got 2. I think he got credit for 2.
He got 1 sack. You're only
What? Gave him 1?
He got 1 sack. The sacks went to Barron, Dupree, Vince Williams, and Cam Hayward. The first sack I thought was Bud Dupree as well, because their hairstyles were similar. It was Barron, but it was a run. But he had one sack.
Yeah, because then they're not. I guess they're counting the fact that Murray was running out of the pocket, even though it was behind the line of scrimmage. And I mean, I always thought that's a sack.
How many sacks did they have total, Lance? Why you got that? Why you have that up?
They had 4 total.
Okay. All right. Still, Dupree had a great game. He had a great game. I'm going to go with offenses. You guys said Hodges and Deontay Johnson. I really want to say James Washington, but I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to go with Kareth White. I really feel like the longer he's here, the more he's getting involved. He's learning more about the playbook, and they're learning more about him. And he has some burst. And he's shown some abilities in kickoffs, not this week, but last week. He's really proven to me that he could be a valuable asset to this team down the stretch, mainly if James Conner is not able to return. I think we are at that stretch with James Conner. You're a running back. You have a shoulder injury. You're going to get popped every single time you touch the ball. If it doesn't start to heal quick, I mean, you're looking at a long-term injury, maybe the playoffs. Kareth White can be a part of this team. Defensively, you all kind of said the players that I was going to name. I was going to go with Dupree because when you have a physical freak in Kyler Murray in terms of his athleticism, you need another physical freak to chase him down. That's Dupree. TJ Watt is relentless, and he abused that right tackle, but you saw Murray escaping, and they're going to have another challenge ahead of them next week, as Lance brought up, with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I watched a lot of that game today. All right, Shield 91 puts $5 in the tip jar. He says, Nerd Alert, the Wonder Woman trailer, and this win, great day. I did not see the trailer you're speaking of, but I'll take your word that it was a good one. So, all right, let's see here. $2 from Thomas White. With Johnson and Washington balling, is Juju still a number 1 wide receiver? Lance?
Well, he wasn't a number 1 wide receiver going into the game, but if he means is he the Steelers' number 1 wide receiver, I do think he's still a wide receiver. He has the most experience and the most production in the National Football League. But if I took a top-down view and looked at all 3 players, I think they're all more like number 2s and 3s.
What about you, Brian?
My number 1 wide receiver for this team is James Washington. So I still think he is the number 1. I am going to surprise you when I tell you who I think the number 3 receiver on this team is. I think right now, with Juju Smith-Schuster not there right now, I think it's Deon Cain. And I love what this guy's doing. But Deontay Johnson is still the number 2. I think the rapport with Duck Hodges is growing with James Washington. It's still growing with Deontay Johnson as well. But I think you've got a nice stable here, and these guys could win without Juju. Imagine what happens when Juju comes back. You have a really solid team. But you mentioned, Jeff, Kareth White earlier, and I'm mentioning Deon Cain right now. I think those guys definitely have to be in the conversation for definite players on this team in 2020. And I think if this team makes the playoffs, they are going to be relied upon. And they're going to make some moves in the playoffs if there's opportunities.
Yeah, I agree 100%. They got these guys off the proverbial scrap heap, meaning the practice squad. And I did read that it was the Colts that were really upset when they lost Deon Cain, similar to the Steelers when they lost Tuzar Skipper to the Giants. You have that player that you have high hopes for in the future. He was that guy for the Colts. X Eddie B puts $2 in the tip jar, says, go Steelers, great win. Thank you, Eddie. We appreciate that. All right, man, I tell you what, whether Juju's a number 1 or not, it's going to be great when he comes back. I think he could be what's really missing for this offense. But let's talk about some numbers from this specific game. Lance, you have the game book up. Why don't you go ahead and go over some numbers?
Yeah, the first number I wanted to jump into is the number 2. The Steelers actually scored 2 touchdowns in this game. I think this is the first time they scored 2 touchdowns in maybe 5 weeks.
Didn't they score 2 last week?
Did they?
Did Benny Snell have a run last week?
He did.
And Who else scored last week?
James Washington.
Yeah. So they did have 2 last week.
Well, it's only the second time they scored 2 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks. Let me jump into a couple other numbers. Let me give you Doug Hodges' numbers. 16 of 19 with a quarterback rating of 117.5. Outstanding on the road.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't really like a road game.
Yeah.
This is the second venue that he's played in where it's been nothing but Steeler fans. That there was talk of possibly the other team, the home team, having used a silent count. That's crazy. But it's still good numbers. I'm not saying that.
I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. The number 3 interceptions. 3 more turnovers.
So who had the picks? It was TJ Watt was the other one. Okay.
TJ Watt had the pick, and Joe Hayden had 2 picks. Another 3 interceptions, if I'm not mistaken. I think that gives them 18 interceptions for the year, which would, I think, make them possibly number 1 in the National Football League in interceptions, or at least top 5 in the National Football League with interceptions. And I think that'll give them overall 33 turnovers, which I think is number 1 in the National Football League.
It is.
It's awesome, man. The defense is balling out, period.
And you said something earlier this year, Jeff, that I did not believe. You said that them getting turnovers at this clip was sustainable. And by golly, it has been sustainable. They have gone out and gotten turnovers every single game consistently. It's almost to the point where I expect them to get a turnover. I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but they just continue to rack up those numbers.
Yeah,
you expect a lot. You expect a lot out of this defense now because we've seen it since week 3. What I'm thinking right now is you've got Joe Hayden, who a lot of people after he signed that contract were really down on him, and even 6 weeks ago we're still down on him. And you're looking at the fact that he's closed out 3 out of the last 4 wins with interceptions. That's just absolutely amazing. He did it against the Rams. He did it last week. He did it this week. 3 interceptions in those in 5 games for him, and he is looking like a world beater. And he's their number 2 corner right now because Steven Nelson is right now your number 1 corner. That's a great problem to have. Lance just mentioned 18 interceptions this year. If I'm not mistaken, I think they had 6 last year. So that's triple with 3 games to go. Triple the amount of interceptions.
Well, they had 15 total turnovers, I think, all last season. Takeaways. They now have more interceptions this year than they had entire takeaways last year.
Incredible.
So think about that. Dillwood had a super chat, and he didn't have anything in it, but here it is. He said, multiple weeks in a row now where they're screwing up time management at the end of the games. Just hope it doesn't end up buying us in the coming weeks. Here's my theory on that, and we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, and it is that this is still a young football team, and they're just going to make some stupid mistakes in terms of running out of bounds, in terms of, they're growing as a team together, and it's easy to say that as they win. You just hope it doesn't cost them a game. But Lance, go ahead and get through the rest of your stats there.
Well, we talked about one number, the number 20 consecutive games with turnovers. We kind of beat that horse dead. So let me go to another number, 140 yards rushing. And to your point about Kareth White Jr., he had 5 runs for 41 yards for an average of 8.2 yards per carry and a long run of 13 yards. And I believe this is back-to-back weeks where they've had over 125 yards rushing. So to Dave's point, maybe the power running game is back in Pittsburgh.
You're starting to see the 2 yards in a cloud of dust come back. And earlier in the year, it was a handoff, tackle for loss, tackle at the line of scrimmage. And now it's, Benny Snell's falling forward for 3. Kareth White's finding some space. He's getting 4. When you're getting 3-4 yards a clip, yeah, you can do that with this defense and with a rookie quarterback. You run. I don't not run, pass. I hate that. But it's you can run it twice, get maybe 6 yards, you're setting up a third and manageable. I'm not saying that's what they should do all the time, but it's at least that's an option. Bryan, what are your thoughts on that?
You know what? This is what we're looking at with this team. Run, pass. That's what's happening. You do what it takes to win right now. And it's really the formula. So you have the defense controlling it for you. You have the offense doing what they can. You just said a rookie quarterback. This running game, it's returning to power football because they're helping control the game. You're not relying on a pass, and you don't want to get to the point where you're having to chuck it down the field and playing from behind. So they're keeping themselves in games with field goals, but that running game is setting it up. And even at the beginning of the game, it looked like Benny Snell Jr. was going to have a 100-yard game because he kept on going, but they mixed it up and they did it the right way. They brought the Wildcat out at the right time tonight. They used it sparingly. They used it one time, but they used it at the right time. So I'm complaining about the game plan, but they did some things right there as well.
Yeah.
Let me jump into my last set of numbers, Jeff. And that is the number 4 and the number 3. They got 4 sacks today, but they gave up 3 sacks. One thing I'm seeing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, as Duck Hodges plays, they're starting to give up more sacks. In the last 3 games, they gave up a total of 7 sacks, but they're continuing to get sacks. And I think with the 4 sacks that they got today, that puts them at 47, and they are averaging 3.5 sacks per game. And I believe that their 47 sacks is leading the National Football League.
Yeah, they were leading going into this week. Unless the team had a gigantic outburst. The only 2 teams that were near them a few weeks ago were Carolina and New England. I'm not sure how New England did or Carolina defensively, but we all said, Dave Schofield included, that it would be difficult for this defense to continue to put up sacks the way that they have the last 2 seasons. And here we are, 3 games left, and they only need 3 to break that 50 plateau again, which at one point seemed insurmountable for this defense and Keith Butler. Bryan, what are your thoughts on the team and their pressure that they're putting on the opposition?
They get after the ball. They're always sending somebody after you. Even against these running quarterbacks, they're not just staying back and shadowing as much. There's somebody doing it, but they're going for it. They know what they have in Hayward. They know that they've got a sacker in Dupree now who's not overrunning the ball. They know Watt. They know he's a world beater. They're just sending them. And this team is about to become the greatest 3-season sack team of all time. If they get to 56 again, they will have the highest 3-year total in NFL history. This is a team that, and last year, even 2 years ago, both those years, we knew that they were getting sacks and we were proud of it, but the rest of the defense was faltering. Now you're getting the sacks and the secondary is holding it up as well. So that's what's making this a world-beating defense. So I love what they're doing with it. They're going after it. That's their new identity. It's the true identity of that defense. And you know they're going to come after you every single time. Even a team like Baltimore is noticing. Because when that team went after they of course they didn't win that game, but they went after Lamar Jackson, and I think they held Baltimore to one of the lesser rushing games of their entire season, and they're one of the best rushing teams total. But they still are going after the quarterback, so they're getting it everywhere.
Keith Butler's MO has always been aggressive pressure, send more than they can block, and trust your players. Lance, do you have any other stats for us?
Well, to keep it just on this, not from this game, but to keep it just on the sack total. So if they continue to get sacks at this clip, they will have 58 sacks for the year. So they're averaging 3.5 with 3 remaining. They could finish with 58 sacks. And so they would clip mark and they would be the all-time. This 3-year period be the most sacks in a 3-year period in Pittsburgh Steelers history. And it would be the first time, I believe, Jeff, that they got sacks 50 or more sacks in 3 consecutive seasons. So they are getting at it. Nobody's complaining about Keith Butler. That was another one that I was going to do about I got it wrong, because I criticized Keith Butler pretty hard in the show, and I clearly got that one wrong as well. Keith Butler has this group playing really good football. The only thing about this group is there are some letdowns after they score, after they, meaning the Steelers, score. And I would love if they could really just not give another team momentum. It's sort of like baseball. You know, as a former baseball player, Jeff, when you score, you don't want to give up runs in that bottom half of the inning. You just want to keep putting, innings back to back where you don't give up scores. So, that's one thing I could see them tighten up a little bit on the tackling. But overall, I mean, this defense is playing outstanding. And riddle me this, guys, they're 8-5. And Mike Tomlin will not have a losing season once again.
There you go. Cue the music. Dun, 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 dun. Breaking news. Mike Tomlin's non-losing season streak continues since 2007. That's pretty remarkable. I saw that I'm going to write this article when we're done with the show. Let me pull up the actual statistic that was by Field Yates of ESPN. Mike Tomlin has now opened his career with 13 straight seasons without a losing season, tied with Don Shula for the second longest career opening streak in NFL history per the Elias Sports Bureau. Marty Schottenheimer holds the record with 14. Freaking remarkable, man.
I mean, it's hard to win games in the National Football League. It is hard to win. And hopefully this season will gain him more appreciation with the fan base. It's tough. Yeah. You're right, Jeff. That's not happening.
It's a shame.
Just stop, man. It's not going to happen.
It ain't happening. You're right.
Because now they'll say that the players are playing. I've already seen it in the live chat. The players are the ones that are doing it. The players are okay. And I get it. You're going to give the players a lot of kudos. You're going to blame the coach when things go south. I like to play it with, you can give credit both times. You can give the players credit for executing. You can give the coach credit. It's possible to say, holy crap, they're on their third quarterback and they're 8-5. They've won what now, Bryan? Is it 7 of their last 8 or 6 of their last 7?
7 of their last 8. They started out 1-4. And this is Mike Tomlin football. We've seen this over and over. Remember,
Mike
4
Tomlin
and 5
had a style of football.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, this has become his deal. Remember, usually when December rolls around, there's very few losses. But remember, and I tell this story all the time. Jeff and I are on the hangover in 2016 after the Steelers lost to Dallas to go to 4-5, and we were coming really close to throwing in the terrible towel at that point. We didn't, but we were coming really close. And what did they do? They ended up in the AFC Championship game. Am I saying that's going to happen this year? All I know is something's happening, and it's not just players, because what he's doing with these guys. Look, I don't know if other teams would be doing this with Duck Hodges. I mean, Belichick maybe, some of these coaches maybe, but a lot of other teams wouldn't. There's some guy, he gets these guys ready to play. And I see in the live chat where a lot of people are saying that, no, it's not, it's the players. Look, this guy's doing something. You got to give him credit for something. They want to play for this guy. There's a lot of guys on a lot of other teams that will play for this guy. And if you cut this guy loose, I would be shocked if it's even more than 2 days that he goes without an interview and a press conference with another color sweater on.
Oh, he'd be the coach of the Washington Redskins in 2 days if he would take the job. I mean,
but
Schneider's already said it. Schneider's already essentially said it, that if he were to come free, Mike Tomlin would be their next coach. But my last set of numbers, and the live chat keeps jumping around. It's not from this game, but we're still talking about sacks, sort of. As impressive as the Steelers have been this year in terms of getting sacks, the NFL record, there are a couple of teams that have had 70 sacks in the season. The 84 Bears had 72. The 89 Vikings had 71. 81 and the 87 Bears had 70. That is downright ridiculous. 72 sacks in a season. That's comical. I mean, that is just downright nasty and getting at it. But again, the number that counts more than any number is the number 8, and the Steelers are at 8-5.
Absolutely. This is for you, Lance. Snowman puts $5 in the tip jar and says, can we get rid of Mr. Faircatch, a.k.a. Ryan Switzer, since we now have Deontay Johnson returning punts? That's your boy. He's talking about your boy like that.
Hey, man, he's gone forever. Mr. Football, Mr. Electric Football Man. And I post pictures of that on Twitter every once in a while. But Mr. Electric Football Man is he's gone. He's out of there. Unless Ben lobbies for him vigorously.
True. Speaking of Twitter, did you happen to see, I tagged you because I run the Behind the Steel Curtain Twitter feed during games and on game day. Did you check your Twitter notifications today, Lance?
No. You
didn't see the video of Ben jogging it up on the field before the game?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I didn't. All right, I tagged you, and I tell you now. I'm gonna describe it as one word: labored.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Like there were a bunch of people that had
baby steps. He's running. He's running, trotting, skipping vigorously.
God. Okay, jokes aside, let's check your notification, Lance. It's there waiting for you. I have one question for you guys. It's a yes or no. You can explain or elaborate if you want. Start with Lance. Has this team, 2019 Pittsburgh Steelers, 8-5 heading into Week 15, has this team entered the quote-unquote dangerous category yet? And when I say dangerous, I mean the teams that people say, this team gets in, they're going to be dangerous. The team that they say, if this team gets in, you don't want to play them. Have they entered that rarefied area yet, Lance?
Really? You really asking me that? Like, really?
Well, I know your answer. I should just go right to Bryan.
You asking me that?
With this defense, I mean, they could be dangerous. You just said yourself, they can't sustain these turnovers, and look what they've done.
The defense is dangerous, but it's still Devlin Duck Hodges.
Well, you have to play the defense when you play the Steelers.
I mean, if they could just play D, they'd be dangerous. No way in the world. As good as the Steelers defense is playing an undrafted rookie quarterback in the playoffs, that's the team I want to see. Because I'm going to figure at some point in time, you're going to have to manage the guy. They're not really going to convert third downs. I can get this defense tired. I'll control time of possession. I'll play a lot more snaps. I'll get you off the field. At some point in time, the defense will wear down. I'll be able to make some plays. I'll tempo them. And then I can kind of get up on you. Maybe I get up on you 17-3. That's all I need because you've got Devlin Duck Hodges as your quarterback. You want to know a team that's dangerous, a team that you don't want to play in the playoffs if they come into your building as in a wild card weekend? The San Francisco 49ers. That's a dangerous team.
We don't have to worry about them unless we're in the Super Bowl. I'm talking about the AFC 2019.
No, they are not dangerous.
All right.
They got a slingshot.
The hater said his piece. I'll say mine. Go ahead, Bryan.
You know what? I don't. We got hater, we've got Homer, and I guess I want to be Triple H. I mean, since I'm here, so I'll just go with humble because I know my humility is something that I'm known for. You know what? Why can't they be dangerous at this point? You know, I'm smelling what Lance is cooking when he's saying it's Devlin Duck Hodges, but I'm seeing, I'm going to quote Rocky because you know how much I love Rocky. And, you know, when Duke is in Rocky 2 saying, I've seen this guy beat you like I've hurt you like I've seen no man hurt another man before. I know I messed it up, but I'm seeing Duck Hodges do some things that I just have not expected. And each week he's starting to get better and he's getting more confidence. And confidence is a dangerous thing, guys. When somebody is confident and he has, we talk about pedigree all the time. He's got FCS pedigree, and that he was their Heisman Trophy winner. That speaks to something. I know it's another division, but I mean, I've heard of a guy that was FCS too. I believe, what was his name? Jerry Rice. Yeah. I mean, you have guys, Walter Payton, I think, was in that lesser division as well. So you've got guys like this that can go ahead. And I said it, go ahead and make plays when he has to make plays. He's doing it with his legs. You get this guy in the playoffs, something magical could happen. I'm watching this team up north, Lance. This team up north, they don't look right now. And there's a possibility with them losing, there's a possibility that Pittsburgh is going up north if they make that 6th seed. And that could very well happen right now. And am I saying they're going to go ahead up north and beat them? I don't know, but they're looking susceptible. Magic happens in January. Right now, Duck Hodges has some kind of magic. He is the chosen one in a very weird way for this ragtag bad news Bears, Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'm embracing what is wearing black and gold right now. For all of their faults, all their injuries, all their flaws, anything you want to say, they've got something going. And when they win more, they're believing it. 53 men as one are deciding that it's us against the world and nobody is going to break us down. So yes, I'm buying this team. Dangerous. Michael Jackson's big album, 1991, dangerous. Roxette, dangerous.
You know what that was? That was a scene in Rocky 2 when he's by Adrian's side the entire time when she's in the coma and she wakes up. She goes, I want you to do something for me. Win. And then the bells start ringing and it's just like, what are we waiting for? To get that moment. Hey, listen here, Lance. All right, hater. This is where you made your monumental mistake. Dangerous does not mean we'll win a Super Bowl. Dangerous does not mean is going to go to the number 1 seed and win. Dangerous means that you are a threat to win that game. And I'm sorry, there are situations in the playoffs with both the AFC and the NFC where that isn't always the case. I think back to when the Steelers played the Miami Dolphins in the wildcard game when Bud Dupree almost killed a guy. That's what I'm talking about. They are dangerous, period. With this defense, like you said, this defense alone is dangerous because this defense has enough to keep them in every single game.
As of today, since they're dangerous, and that album was horrible, actually, by the way, by Michael Jackson. That was one of his worst. Remember the Time was on that album, which was a great song, though. As of today, they would travel to Kansas City for a wild card game.
Because Houston lost, Kansas City won. They now are ahead of them. Bring it on, man.
What if New England loses again? Kansas City keeps on winning. Things happen.
How about Buffalo? I want Buffalo to beat New England somehow. And
if that happens, that you could be looking at a 3rd seed. KC keeps winning. There's a tie. KC is a tiebreaker. That's what I'm saying. And can I say this real quick, Jeff? You mentioned Rocky too. Win Rocky Win, and he was wearing the T-shirt, Win Rocky Win. I think the next BTSC T-shirt, Win Ducky Win.
Ducky. Can you just say Win Duck? Okay, Brian, speaking of Buffalo, you wanted to say something about the game, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, look, I mean, we make grand plans, and we all decide that, Dave and I decided that we were going to go down to the game. With it being flexed out, and I mean, this isn't my job. I have a job the next day. And Dave has responsibilities also. So we have not said that we are not going. What we're saying right now is that if you would like to purchase those tickets, that you could, let me pull this up because this is the longest, craziest email of all time. STLR Superfan Dad is it Gmail?
That's Gmail, yeah.
At gmail.com. And we can go ahead. I mean, I'm sure Dave's on here. You can go ahead and type it in. But it's going to be pretty tough to go to that game that's going to end at midnight and get back at 4 or 5 in the morning and go to work. I was planning on a 1 p.m. game. It could be, I mean, I'm not saying we're not going to be there. Keep it posted. But, hey, this is a huge game. If you want to go, tickets are out there. Call Dave. Actually, email Dave. Tweet Dave. Send a Harry Potter howler to Dave. Whatever you need to do. But you can go to this game.
And this is going to be the regular season finale. Period. So
yes, the last game in Heinz Field, most likely this season.
It would take, well, he would take a lot.
It would take a miracle.
Yeah, it would take a miracle. So if you're interested, go to Bryan. You can go to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Any one of Dave's articles, click on his name, and it'll take you to his author profile. His email address is there. You can email if you're interested. So it should be good.
I know we're getting to that time where we're getting towards the end of the show, but I wanted to reference one of the comments by Michelle. I think it was Michelle Powers, who wrote, "Leave Ben alone." I'm looking at the video. Jeff, can you really call that cardio?
Well, that's what Mark Cabali of the
Okay, Jeff's standing still there.
Oh,
that's rare.
Here we are. I'm back. Okay. Didn't Cabali label that as he's getting some cardio in?
Before the game. That's not cardio.
No. That is not cardio. I chuckled to myself. I tagged you in it because we've talked about Ben Roethlisberger's amazing figure. We'll put it that way.
That he makes Rich Eisen look like Tyreek Hill.
Oh my God! All right, real quick here before we call it a show. If you want to check out that video, you can go to our Behind the Steel Curtain Twitter feed, at BT Steel Curtain. Check it out. I quote tweeted that earlier today. Ryan O'Toole puts $5 in the tip jar and said, "Did you see the Ravens D player lineup behind the Bills quarterback today? Way offsides." I did not see. I watched a lot of that game, but to be honest with you, I was actually more interested in Buffalo than I was Baltimore. Brian, did you get to watch any of that game?
I very hardly any of it. The most I got to watch the game was the end of the New Orleans San Francisco game.
Lance, did you get to watch any of the Baltimore Buffalo game today?
A little bit, but then I turned on that Niner game. That Niner game was the best game this year. That was an epic game. So I turned off that defensive slugfest for that offensive show. 10 touchdown passes in that game. I mean, they were going up and down the field. I didn't think Jimmy G had it in him, but man, that was an outstanding game. They were balling.
There you go. Devlin Duck Hodges himself puts $1.99 in the tip jar. Time to head home. Let me see your ducks. He wants to see them duck emojis in the live chat. So there you go. I'll tell you what, guys, this has been a good show. It was a good game. It was a good win. That's the most important thing. The Steelers are now 8-5. All that we ask, if you really want to help the show, a lot of people donated money tonight. You don't have to do that. By all means, just like the video. If you've watched this long, you're obviously a fan of the show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell. Set up your notifications. The duck emojis are going crazy in the live chat. And make sure you follow us on all our audio platforms. That's iTunes, Spotify. What are you laughing at, Lance? The heck?
Did you see Brian Z? Brian Z said Ben is a hibernating bear, and he will wake up in the spring slim and hungry.
I love it.
Well, hey, I'll tell you this. I hope so. I hope so.
I
hope he comes back looking great. I hope his arm's fine, because with this defense and him at quarterback with these young offensive playmakers, telling you what, they're dangerous.
Yeah.
They are dangerous.
Wouldn't it be great if he came back to a Wentz Foles situation where Duck takes him far and they're like, hey, we've got 2 quarterbacks now.
All right, guys. Thank you for your time. Lance, why don't you send us off?
And as always, good people, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
Amen, brother. We will see you next week after another. Well, it's going to be late again. Good Lord. All right. After a Sunday nighter next week against Buffalo, I'll try to stay awake. We'll see you on the next Steelers postgame.